Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loki here. Join me today as we check on my overwintering geraniums. So let's go. It is December and it is time for us to check on our geraniums. And I'm really hoping you're following along with me. Maybe this is your first time, or maybe you've been doing it for years. But nevertheless, it is a great time of year for us to check on our plants that we're overwintering. And I like to overwinter a lot of plants. I like to overwinter potted plants in my unheated garage. I also like to overwinter bulbs in my unheated garage. I'll put links to those videos down below, but today's video is going to focus on checking on geraniums that I'm overwintering bare root. Gardening is fun, but it doesn't have to be expensive. One way you can save money in the garden is by overwintering your geraniums. But the whole process of overwintering a plant is not just set it and forget it. You do need to check on your geraniums at least once a month. In case you're new to the whole process and you've never heard of it before, what I'll do is I'll put links to some important videos that I've made showing my process for taking the geraniums outside, bringing them in before a frost, and then getting them ready for overwintering. I'll also put links to older videos where I showed my process for waking up those geraniums, basically taking them out of dormancy, and I even have videos that show my process for taking cuttings in order to propagate geranium plants. Now I'm going to take you on a little mini field trip down to my unheated basement, which is where my overwintering geraniums currently are. Just like any basement, this basement is pretty messy. But I wanted to show you, I do have a little thermometer here, and it just gives an idea of the temperature. So right now it's about 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And later in the winter, it will drop down to probably, I'd say, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the geraniums are dormant, you want the temperature to be somewhere around 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's a little warmer, that's fine. You just don't want it too warm. And you also don't want it so cold that they're going to freeze. So we have one big box over here. And then we also have a couple of boxes here as well as some bags. Let's bring all of those upstairs and let's go ahead and start opening them up. You know what's better than Christmas presents under a tree? This. These are basically free plants to me, and I'm not joking when I say that they're free. I mentioned in many of my videos that if you're looking for plants at the end of the season that you want to save, reach out to family members, reach out to friends, go on Facebook Marketplace, but be safe. There are a lot of different ways that you can get plants for free. Many times at the end of the season, people are just looking to throw away their plants. And those are plants that you can salvage and keep year after year. And that's the reason why I have so many geraniums at this point that I'm so excited about, because I'm able to get them from lots of different places. And it's not easy, it's work. In fact, I'm going to say that a lot in my videos. Gardening can be work, but it's so worth it in the end. When it comes to overwintering geraniums, it's not a 100% no work method, but it is a method that doesn't require a ton of work and the payback is huge. So what I'm planning to do today is just go through these geraniums, and I want to show you the things that I'm looking for so that if you're overwintering geraniums, then you also know what to look for. And in the end, if I didn't answer some of the questions that you might have when it comes to overwintering your own geraniums, please drop it down in the comment section below. The first thing we're going to need is something to hold water. In this case, I just have a large bowl. And the reason we have this is so that we can soak the roots of our geraniums today. I'm just going to add some room temperature water to the bowl. If it's a small size geranium, I like to use a small paper bag like this. But if I have larger geraniums, I prefer to use cardboard boxes. I pretty much just want to use something that the geraniums can breathe in. Although some people will just hang these upside down in their basement. They won't even put them in anything. What I wouldn't want to put them in is something that they can't breathe in. Now keep in mind, these geraniums are down where it's very dark, and yet you can see that they're still trying to push out growth. So don't let that surprise you. When you're checking on your geraniums, you might see new fresh growth. You might in fact even see flower buds or even flowers. So what I want to do at this time is just remove any of the crispy, crunchy leaves. I'm basically cleaning the plant up. And the reason is it's a great time to do that. When I first put these away for storage, I didn't defoliate the plant. I know some people like to do that. Honestly, you want to do what works best for you and for your time that you have. Since I had so many geraniums that I was trying to overwinter, I didn't have time to go ahead and defoliate all the plants. I just like to let the leaves dry up naturally, and then when I'm doing my monthly check, at that time I can go ahead and remove the crispy leaves. But when it comes to the new fresh growth that's on here, I just leave it. If I did see some sort of flowers or flower buds on here, I could keep them on there or I could remove them. I normally like to remove those if I see those on here. I do have a bucket here so that I can take all the crispy leaves or anything else that I'm cutting off and put them in the bucket. Now what I want to do is just inspect my plant. I'm basically looking for any pieces on here that don't look very good. It's a great time to go ahead and just cut those pieces off. If there's disease happening, you don't want that because it might spread to the rest of your plant. Down here, you can see that everything looks really good, nice and firm. But as we go up on some parts of this plant, like right here, if I take this piece, you can see that it's bendy. It's not firm, and that's a piece that I want to remove. But the question is, how far down do I remove this piece? It's really up to you. Honestly, you could come all the way down. So like, look at this right here. This also doesn't look great, and I bet over time, this piece will be bendy as well. So if I follow it down even further, just around here, this is where things are starting to get firm. Now, there's no guarantee that new growth will happen at this point, but I feel comfortable cutting just above it right over here because I feel like no new growth is going to happen up along this section here. And in fact, I want you to see it's even bendy down in this section. So let's go ahead and cut it right above this node here. And you don't necessarily have to cut above any sort of junction or node. I'm just cutting it where I see that it's not so bendy, and I'm cutting right above it. Here's another piece. If you follow it up, things look pretty good. But I feel right after this growth point right here, I don't think it looks great. And that's just a close-up of what I'm looking at because I want to make sure you see what I see. So clearly you can see that I could go ahead and cut right above this section where the new growth is appearing. Now I know some people just automatically cut back their plant fully when they put it in for dormancy. The reason I don't do that, the reason why I leave all these large pieces on here is I want to have the chance to come in and take cuttings when I wake these plants up. So that's why I leave as much of the top growth on there. But if you're not planning to take cuttings and you just want your geranium to overwinter, by all means, you could have come in and you could have just cut it back quite hard and it would have been fine. And you'll see sometimes sections that are crossing over, like we have one piece here and then we have this section that's crossing over it. And that's not good. Now, if this section here was still very firm, honestly, I would leave that section on there with the intent of coming in and being able to take a cutting off of it. However, when we take it in for a closer inspection, you can see it does not look very good. And if we follow it down, it looks okay pretty much from this point going down. And that's exactly where I'm going to cut. And yet this section is still coming towards this section here. I would love to come in later in the season, if this still looks good, and basically take this piece right here and be able to root that. And when I check on this geranium in another month or so, there's a chance other sections might not look good. And at that time, I'll have to go ahead and cut those sections off. So now if we scan the plant very carefully, you can see generally everything else on here looks good. It might have a light green tinge to it, and that's always a good sign. Or the pieces that look a light tan color look nice and woody and firm. Now let's talk about the roots. You'll notice that I've removed the soil from the roots. And it's simply amazing that a geranium can survive all winter and not be in any soil. Some people do like to overwinter their geraniums with soil in them, and they'll overwinter them indoors and treat them as a houseplant. That's perfectly fine. The reason that I don't like to do that is because I have so many geraniums and I don't have room for all of the geraniums indoors. Some people also like to overwinter the geraniums in soil, but in a dormant state, like in their basement or their garage. In fact, I am doing that with a few of my plants. I have some of them in my unheated garage. But generally, I prefer to do the method of bare root, just like this. In previous years, I've taken a water bottle and just misted the roots. You can definitely do that. But in the last few years, I've actually preferred to take the plant and put the roots in a bowl of water, just like this. I feel like I'm rehydrating the roots a little bit more than just by misting them. And then there are some people that don't check on their plants at all the whole winter. They don't do any watering, and their plants come back fine. I'm just sharing the process that works best for me. These plants are dormant for at least 4 months or so. Where you live, maybe your bare root geraniums are only dormant for a month. So you might not have to do this whole process of rehydrating the roots. It really depends on your climate. It depends on how long your geraniums are going to be bare root for. For a change of scenery, we're going to check on some of the geraniums that I have in this cardboard box. In my other videos, I do talk about when you want to wake up your bare root geraniums. I can't remember the exact time, but I can pop it up on the screen. But even then, that's going to vary. I like to actually wake up my bare root geraniums a little bit earlier than normal because I like to take cuttings off of them. And here is another bare root geranium. Now, you might notice the size difference. This looks quite a bit larger than the one that we just worked on. And someone mentioned that in a video, that their geranium looked very puny, very small compared to some of mine. The reason why this one is so huge is this is a 2, if not 3-year-old geranium plant that I've been able to successfully overwinter. In other words, every year that goes by that you overwinter a geranium plant, be it bare root or as a house plant, that geranium plant is going to get larger for you. And how great is that to have a nice, big, mature geranium plant after overwintering it for a number of years? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in and just remove any of the leaves that are crispy or that are starting to die. This is a job that actually I find very satisfying. Where I live, we have very long winters, very cold winters. So it's a gardening task or a gardening chore that I can do. I basically can get my hands dirty, and it just feels good to be able to be doing something gardening related during these cold winter months. But then not only that, I'm able to save plants that maybe someone else was going to throw away. And I'm able to save money in my garden. It's really just a win-win situation all around. I have successfully started geraniums from seed, and I still like the process of starting geraniums from seed, and I will plan on doing it this winter. However, I also like the idea of having a much larger, more established plant. So if you are planning to start geraniums from seed, go ahead and save your geranium plants because you will have a jump start on a nice big plant the next season. Again, any of these pieces that are kind of wonky, like this one here, or any of the pieces where you have it basically, it's growing straight up, but then it's kind of crossing over other pieces in here, I want to leave them on here because I want the option of being able to take those wonky pieces and be able to root them in order to create more new plants. When it comes to how long to soak the geranium roots for, I like to soak them for about 1 to 2 hours. So I might put a timer on, and then that way I can just check back on them. Also, when I put them away for storage again, I don't want them to be very wet. So first of all, notice that only the roots are beneath water. You don't want the whole plant to get wet. That can introduce rot. You're only trying to rehydrate the roots. And also, when it is time to put them for storage, you don't want a very wet plant being put away for storage because that can also create rot. It can create mold. So what I like to do is after an hour or 2 hours have passed, I like to take the plants out of the bowl, shake off as much of the water as I can, and then I like to just place them down and basically let them air dry for at least a half hour or so. I'm just trying to get as much of that water off. Some other people like to just have it upside down somehow. Basically, you can hang them somewhere so they're drip drying. But again, I have so many geranium plants that for me, it's just easier to lay them down for a while. And then once I know that they don't need to be fully dry, but once I know that a lot of the water has come off, then I can put them back away for storage. And then I'll put it in my calendar to check on my geraniums again in 1 month. But for right now, I'm going to put this back in here so that it continues rehydrating the roots. So now I'm looking over this plant. Right here, it looks like eventually this section might start to not look good. But this piece here looks really good. You can see it's nice and vibrant green. So I'm actually going to keep all of this on here for now. And when I check on this in a month, I wouldn't be surprised if I have to cut this whole piece back. I don't want to do it just quite yet. But this little guy up top, it's not doing anything for the plant. I can remove that. And actually, most of this plant looks pretty good. The only piece that I see that I could afford to cut is this section right here. And I'm bringing you in for a closer look so you can see what I'm talking about. It's basically starting from down here and goes all the way up. So let's go ahead and cut that off. And otherwise, I think we did a pretty good job in just cleaning this up. So you get the general idea of what I'm trying to do here. Basically, we're rehydrating the roots. We are removing any pieces that are crispy, that are crunchy, which generally would be old leaves. And then we're also checking for any sections that definitely don't look good, that are very bendy, and where you feel pretty confident that nothing's going to happen in a certain section of the plant. And if you're not quite sure, I suggest just leaving it alone. There's one piece like right here, it's a light brown color. It is super bendy. I know for sure nothing's going to happen with that piece. But then there are other sections that are a little questionable. I don't want to take a chance. I'd rather just leave them alone and see what happens 1 month from now or 2 months from now. In one of my videos, someone had said that I should have cut back the plants all the way before I overwintered them. And if that's a method that you prefer to do, you absolutely can. That's not a wrong way to do it. But the way that I'm showing you here is also not a wrong way to do it. In another video, someone mentioned I should have defoliated all the leaves before overwintering the plants. Again, if you have the time or if you feel strongly that you want to do it, it's not a wrong way to do it. But also leaving all the leaves on here and letting them die back naturally is also not a wrong way to do it. And I know that because I've been able to successfully have my plants come back for me after having left the leaves on there initially. And I think that's what the beauty is about gardening, is that there's not just one way to do pretty much everything that we do in gardening. When you see me do something, it's just the way that I'm doing it. But you might find a different way to do it. And I think that's what makes it very exciting. In fact, I love hearing from you, and I want to know, is there something different that you do when it comes to overwintering your pelargoniums or your geraniums? Let me know in the comments, because not only do I read the comments, a lot of other people read the comments as well. And I'm finding another piece on here that, again, looks a little questionable, looks a little bendy, but then when I follow it up, there's a section that's nice and vibrant and green. So I'm going to leave it alone. One of my gardening goals for this year on my channel is to bring you along with the process on many of the things that I'm doing in my garden. And that includes overwintering plants. I'd rather make videos more often than less, just so that if you are trying to look into your plants and you have questions along the way, I want you to hopefully find these videos helpful and also have opportunity to ask me questions along the way. One thing that I've heard from a few of you is that you're glad that I'm making these videos because you forgot to check on your plants. And so I'm very glad to be able to do these videos to hopefully help you along. And don't forget to put a reminder in your calendar to check on your plants at a minimum once a month. That way, if there is any potential issue, you're catching it early enough. So stay tuned for the end of this video. I'm going to show you in each of these boxes how these geraniums are looking like right now, just so you have an idea of the geraniums that I have and how many that I have. It's very exciting, and I can't wait to display them in my garden next year. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.